Hello everyone, my name is Kafuku Rocker, and today we're going to be jumping into the Shohei Ohtani scandal. Right now, that's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest topics and happenings in baseball right now, when it should be really the beginning of the season. We have opening day here in a few days, um, but this whole entire situation has caught the baseball world by storm. So we're gonna go over that situation. We're gonna go over pretty much 3 questions. So we're gonna be playing a game of probability. What is the likelihood that some of these things happened or occurred? So the 3 questions that we're gonna go over, it's gonna be the first one is gonna be, did Shohei Ohtani gamble? Second one, did Shohei Ohtani know Ipphei Mizuhara gambled? And 3, did Shohei Ohtani know the extent of Mizuhara's gambling addiction? So those are the topics that we're going to cover. We're going to assign a level of probability to all 3 of those questions, and then see what we come up with at the end. So let's get started. All right, so before we jump into our 3 questions, we have to have a general understanding of who Shohei Ohtani is, right? So we have to talk about, this is a guy who has been an MVP of the American League for 2 years. He is arguably the best hitter in baseball. And he's also arguably the best pitcher in baseball. That doesn't happen, and in fact has never happened in the game before, right? We have to go all the way back to Babe Ruth to try to figure out that, but even Babe Ruth didn't do both at the same time, right? So he was a good pitcher. He was still one of the greatest hitters, one of the greatest players of all time, but he did not do what Shohei Ohtani is currently doing. So whatever he's doing has not happened before. And in order to be that good at both of those unique disciplines, you have to work extremely hard. And you have to have some sort of level of obsession that only compares to Kobe Bryant levels of obsession with the game of baseball, right? So this guy essentially wakes up in the morning and he breathes, sleeps. I mean, he essentially drinks, eats, breathes baseball all day, every day, right? He doesn't really have that much time for anything else. He probably has no interest in anything else. I'm surprised to even find out that, this year or late last year, he got married. Like, when did he find the time to do that? Because it seems like this individual all he wants to do is baseball related type stuff. So he may not, while his relationship, and we'll go over his relationship with his interpreter here in a little bit, with Mizuhara, but I think we have to get out of the way that this is a person with an incredible obsession to his craft, perhaps not very interested with anything else that's happening around him, not very interested in really any other topic or anything else, with the exception of improving and becoming the greatest baseball player of all time. So getting that out of the way. And we've all known, right? So it's not like we've all been exposed to the type of character, perhaps, that Ohtani, the type of person that Shohei Ohtani is. So we have to take all of these things into account. Well, he has not just solely from this incident that just happened, but from what we understand Shohei Ohtani, or who we understand Shohei Ohtani to be. So jumping into the first question, did Shohei Ohtani gamble? I think it's pretty safe to say that there is no way that Shohei Ohtani gambled, like himself, right? Like, when, where, like what interest has there ever been, I guess, that any hint or anything like that he was gambling or he had any interest in gambling? I think it's pretty safe to say that no. And not only that, when was the last time that baseball has even had some sort of gambling scandal? I mean, the one that we have to go back to is the one with Pete Rose, right? But everyone has been so scared about what happened to Pete Rose as far as his Hall of Fame eligibility, and with as obsessed as again as Ohtani is with being a baseball player, with being the greatest baseball player of all time, with I'm sure being at the Hall of Fame is one of his aspirations, and the Pete Rose situation is well documented. There is no way that he would risk anything that has to do with his baseball standing, especially with something like gambling. So I think if we had to assign a percentage of probability to whether or not Shohei Ohtani gambled, I will assign it a 1. There's a 1% likelihood probability that Shohei Ohtani gambled himself, right? Not likely at all. We can dismiss that and move on from question number 1. So let's jump into question number 2. And question number 2 is, did Shohei Ohtani know Ipphei Mizuhara gambled? And I think we can say that yes. I think here we can say that he knew that Mizuhara gambled to some extent, right? I don't know if he paid that much attention to the amount or was there, an addiction there? Was there an obsession there? Was there a problem there? I don't think he had any clue, right? Because again, he's just focused, rightfully so, on himself, right? So Mizuhara's job is essentially to be Ohtani's translator. Without Ohtani, Mizuhara doesn't have that job. I mean, can you imagine having the job of being the interpreter to Shohei Ohtani, one of the greatest baseball players, and you get to be in the dugout? You need to interact with all these players. Like if you love the game of baseball in any capacity at all, and you know multiple languages, being the translator to Shohei Ohtani is probably one of the most coveted, jobs that there is out there. So, to Ohtani, even though maybe they were close or whatever the case may be, it's still Mizuhara's job. Like, his entire job is to just be there to translate for Shohei Ohtani, right? And if Ohtani has the same perception that people are supposed to approach their jobs in the same way that he does, that his understanding of that Mizuhara, like, also from the moment that he wakes up, he's supposed to, live, breathe, drink, eat, being a translator for Shohei Ohtani, right? Like, that he should be the greatest at what he does. Now, there's been reports, of course, and witnesses and people that have seen that have said that Ohtani and Mizuhara were super close, that they did everything together, they were everywhere together. I mean, they don't really know the extent of their communication, unless they were Japanese, because you don't really know what it was that they were talking about. Did they talk about private stuff? What do they share with one another? And it's possible they were close, but you just never know, right? And then if you consider the Japanese culture, where people tend to be a little bit more private, and that is really relevant, and not just relevant, but that is evident in how Ohtani, even his girlfriend, and nobody knew who his girlfriend was until he got married. And even when he got married, they didn't even know who his wife was. So this is a super private person. So how much of, if anything, he's sharing with Mizuhara? So that's the part that I don't know. But did he know that he gambled? I would say yes. And if I had to assign a probability to that, I would say 60% chance that Ohtani knew that he gambled. But now, as we jump into question number 3, which is, did Shohei Ohtani know the extent of Mizuhara's gambling addiction? And that's where we have to lower it quite a bit, because in order to understand that, we have to understand the intimacy of their relationship, the things that they talked about, all of these things, in order to jump to the conclusion whether Ohtani knew the extent of Mizuhara's addiction. Now, was Mizuhara someone that Ohtani perhaps cared a lot about? Yeah, I think so. I think he cared about him, or for him, to an extent. They've been working together since 2018, so that's a 6-year relationship where again, they were in the dugout together. They went to eat together, they went to a hotel room together, they went to engagements together. So every engagement that Ohtani has ever done in English has been with him by his side. So of course, I want to say that Ohtani cared for him to some extent, right? So then the question becomes, as far as like what happened to the bank account, because that's kind of what the big thing here, the big questions, right, that we have. So we'll have to get into that, but it's possible that if Mizuhara is as obsessed with gambling as Ohtani is with baseball, then he'll find a way to get access to it, right? He'll find a way to get in there. Maybe when Ohtani wasn't paying attention, I don't know. So it's hard to really say. Is it possible that he transferred that money without Ohtani knowing? Yeah, that's possible. Is it possible that Ohtani transferred it knowing to help a friend? That's also possible. It's just not, that's hopefully where the investigation is going to come in and figure that out. But that's also going to be hard to determine in the end. So those are kind of the considerations that we have to have. Now, I disagreed, or I didn't think it was very smart for Ohtani to come out and do this press conference. I actually thought that it hurt him a little bit. However, again, I don't know if his PR team, like his public relation team, if they're Japanese or who they come from, because I think that if he did this in Japan, that press conference, he probably would have been fine. Probably about the same thing that they expected. In Japan, the culture tends to be more about, hey, just come out with the truth. Just tell us, just kind of tell us what happened. The same thing that happens in the criminal side of things. Like, people just want to know, hey, what happened? Just be upfront, just be honest at the beginning. So, but in America, it kind of doesn't really work that way most of the time, right? So in the United States, you have the right to remain silent. You have the rights of the Fifth Amendment, which people kind of keep it until the investigation is fully done and then come out with a statement. Although you can kind of have a statement, but it's not as strong. You can say something about along the lines of, I claim my innocence, but I won't really get into the facts of things until, the investigation comes out or whatever. But he came in pretty strong statement that perhaps they were true, but there are still a bunch of holes in the story. So that's why I kind of question his public relations team a little bit, if they're giving him the right advice or the right guidance, especially dealing with the American media, not necessarily dealing with the Japanese media. But maybe that's who they were concerned about. Maybe they're not concerned about the American media. Maybe they're more concerned with the Japanese media, because that's where he's from, that's where he lives, that's where, everything like that. So perhaps this was more of an attempt to quiet down the situation in Japan, and not necessarily too much with the American public. So that's another thing to consider as well. But, it'd be also prudent to kind of get both perspectives, and maybe just full-blown tackle the entire thing at once, or just wait it out and see what happens. So that's pretty much my opinion on the whole thing. Either way, I don't think there's an extreme likelihood that there was any wrongdoing or too much wrongdoing from Shohei Ohtani's side, but we'll see what happens, right? These are probabilities, and this is not based on any scientific numbers. This is just speculation, just on reading character, reading people's professions and performance within baseball, and then the motivations for Ohtani versus the motivations for his interpreter Mizuhara. So that is it, but we'll see, right? This is still early in the investigation. Hopefully they wrap this thing up pretty quickly, so that Ohtani and everyone else can just go back to focusing on baseball, because Ohtani has 10 more years of performance with the Dodgers, and we all want to see him continue in the quest to become one of the greatest, if not the greatest player of all time. So that's all for today. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.